But do you think so? Do you want to talk about what's going to happen in the next episode? I think that's a good
I think that's a good
transition
point of
point. Yeah,
transition. Yeah.
because so we get Rex talking about the Scrapper Guild on Braca and how they basically control the whole planet, and obviously two of them spots the Bad Batch at the end and Rex, and so if I had to guess, I think the next episode is going to take place on Braca too. But I guess they could pretty much do anything. They jump time whenever they want to in this. I did like the cold open of this episode actually too, where they were on a mission already
Hmm.
instead of us seeing them go on another mission. I like that there's time passing between these episodes. But do you think? So do you? I could be wrong, but I feel like I saw a TV spot or something where they were fighting Crosshair in on Braca.
No, you're
So
right. You're right.
yeah. So
I think
I
that's
think
the next
next
episode.
I think that's it because that's basically and we've hit every mark from the trailer so far. So I
Well,
think
have
all
they
we
been
have
in the
left.
ATTE yet? The one where they're like walking in an ATTE and they fire
Oh
on
no,
another
that's right.
one?
That's true. That's true. We
Yeah, I
haven't
think
seen that
that
one.
one still hasn't. Yeah.
So that
So
so that's it. And then from the little TV spot that had the Rancor in it and all of that stuff, we haven't seen them fighting Crosshair on Braca. So I would guess that's the next episode. And I think hopefully this next episode is big because it is, technically the mid-season. We're not getting a mid-season finale, but it's the mid-season point, and we speculated in the past that the way reps worked a lot of times and the way a lot of these longer form animation shows work is that we get a big opening, a big middle, and a big end, and everything else kind of fills in the time with fun little short missions. And so hopefully this episode is really big and has Crosshair coming in, and we get a lot more with the Imperials and stuff because we've answered now all the questions about Rex and about Wrecker and about who the Marta's sisters were contacting, and all of that stuff has been answered. So we're kind of back to the questions of Finnick, who hired Finnick, what's the Kaminoans' role in this, how are they playing the Empire, what's going to happen to Crosshair, those all things that hopefully the second half of the show is going to finally get into. And hopefully that starts next week.
yeah, I mean it's tough. I mean I think the one shot we got of Crosshair, it looks like the engine of one of the Venators is like rigged to blow. So maybe he's. I think it is Crosshair who's right next to it or near it enough that he has to run away. Um, I don't think the Scrapping Guild actually sees Rex. There's a really well placed fog, and right when they zoom in, he's already gone. So maybe they make their move, and by then Rex has already flown off, and it's only the Bad Batch versus Crosshair. Um, I actually would kind of prefer that. I think Rex and the Bad Batch and Omega being better at her Zygerian bow, energy bow right now, I think would be a lot more formidable than just, um, you know, just the Bad Batch. And plus, Rex is gonna have that. He knows, unlike these clones who've just gotten their chips out. Oh, Crosshair, even if he doesn't know about like the amplification, he knows he's gonna have to do a little bit more of the dirty work, even if the Bad Batch doesn't want to hurt their own brother. I don't think he's gonna have. He's idealistic, but he's also more than willing to take the shot. I don't think Hunter and all those guys are, and I think he just becomes unnecessarily complicated in storytelling when you have someone who's already been shown to be more idealistic than we thought he'd be post Order 66, but then sees a clone who's clearly Empire times 10 now. Like, it should just be the Bad Batch versus Crosser and his human recruits. I think that's the only thing it should be. I'd love a Cal Kestis tease. I'd like to see maybe. I mean, he's never used the Force, but it doesn't mean that he can't help them, right? Like, oops, I accidentally blocked off the entrance to this. Get going. You helped me out. You helped me when I was falling off a ledge or something. I don't know. I'd like that since they're on Braca. Um, You're talking about like if the brain chip is removed from Crosshair, he dies. They've got me thinking. I mean, if they're amplifying the chip in with the purple sonic waves or whatever onto Crosshair, what's to say that they don't, make a software update for these brain chips now, right? Now that the objective's been done, now ensure that it's like a fail safe. You remove it, you die.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely think that if, I mean, look, if you can get these clones we've seen in the Kanan comic and all these things, they start after a little bit to realize what they just done. The effects of that hard programming in their brain forces them to just command, obey, all this and that. But once you're well past Order 66 a year later on, you don't really think about Order 66 anymore. That's just an event for the Empire. But for the clones who actually had to carry it out, once that programming is loosened up, then they actually have to deal with it. And if I'm more than willing to believe that the average clone not only will have a bunch of guilt and trauma for that, but if they find out that people like Rex and the Bad Batch are alive with their chips open, they'll run for the med base, do something, do their own surgeries just to get the chips out. It's kind of how like Ezra in Rebels, he communicated with the whole Lothal sector and everyone nearby about the rebellion and got them to go. If Rex does a broadcast like that, if Bad Batch Hunter or someone does the same thing, and clones hear it, it might get them thinking. Right after that, after they if they ever do return to more of like the conversational, relaxed, jokey sort of clones that we saw in Clone Wars versus the follow orders, traitor, this, that, kill, shoot on sight sort of clones that we've been seeing in Bad Batch. I think that would be also pretty devastating if that happens, and then I can think it can also tie in eventually into Kaminoans creating their own super clones that are only dedicated to Kamino, maybe fighting alongside clones that have the brain chips activating against the Kaminoans. I could see like I want this to be brutal. I don't want to just be Empire versus Commune anymore. When I know that they can adjust these chips, having clones that they might have side with the Kaminoans against the Empire, suddenly be forced to flip and shoot each other and their brothers, make it even more messy and complicated. Yeah, I hate to say it, but I would love to see the clones go out in the worst way possible, because that's the only way the Empire gets rid of their biggest threat. It's their biggest asset right now, but it is soon to be their biggest threat. They don't just get conscripts because they're cheaper, right? Cheaper doesn't mean better. We've already seen that Crosshair will do what it takes versus a regular human. But if they see everyone is crazy like Crosshair or can be swayed like Crosshair, well, yeah, I have to get rid of them. Yeah, I don't know what your thoughts are there.
That would be really interesting. I think it's the chips have been so like hit and miss in canon with terms of like you said in the canon comic they're able to, or Commander Gray, right, is able to overcome the chip for about a minute to save Kanan, and we don't know if that's still fully canon or what's the case with that. Wrecker in this episode remembers everything he did, so there is that little bit of them trying to fight back like more traditional mind control stories have, where you're trying to fight it off, but even Wrecker can't overcome it. So yeah, it'd be fascinating if they could just say, all right, every clone come in here and we're gonna give you a little brain scan, but really it just upgrades their inhibitor chips on all of them. I don't know. Yeah, that would be brutal. I think Crosshair is gonna have one of those like heroic death type things, with whether he dies trying to save everybody else, or he dies saving everybody else when he's able to overcome the chip for a little bit, and then they try to remove the chip and he doesn't make it. I think it's going to be something like that personally, but yeah, if this was, Star Wars has been hit and miss with what they're willing to do in terms of of violence and like darkness for story versus what their format is meant for in terms of like Rogue One, they kill everybody, which was, a very strong move and a move we didn't expect, even though it's what everybody wanted because it made sense for the story. And Clone Wars has gone dark in plenty of places, and I fully expect the Bad Batch to get to that same level when it's needed. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how dark they're willing to go when it comes to like killing all the clones in that fashion. That would definitely be really super ultra dark, and I would be here for it. But um yeah, as of now, I guess with the way the Bad Batch has operated so far, I don't know if I can see him doing that. But
Yeah, no, this would be like a season plus for sure if that ever happens. But
or something.
yeah,
I hope
I
this
mean,
show. I really want the show to go 4 or 5 seasons. I want it to be the first 5 years post Return
yeah,
of the Jedi,
I'd like
where
that
everybody
too.
knows that.
I'd definitely like to see Omega. She's young, but she's not like young to the point that she's regularly aging. So I'd like to see a young woman, Omega, by the end of the series. She seems like
We
she's 11, 12.
we don't know if she's in has growth enhancements, do we? I mean, I would assume she
Right, but
does because
she has to be, right? Because she's definitely younger than Rex, right?
right.
And she doesn't have any inhibitor chips, which has been there forever. So she seems to be more of like a recent development, like next stage clone at best.
Mhm.
An experiment, like we mentioned, maybe they were trying to create a force sensitive. Well, like again, we haven't reached that whole thread of like, is she force sensitive in a bit?
Right.
She may be force sensitive. She may have been an experiment that they were working with midichlorians and somehow created this force sensitive clone, right? And the Empire, with their Kaminoan forces and scientists and Mandalorian try to replicate what they did with Omega, with a Grogu. Like we there's that whole angle there too. But I don't think she was there from the start. No, I think she's new. She's definitely someone that even the Bad Batch hadn't heard of. I think defective clones hear of other defective clones.
Yeah, she's so well hidden, I guess, if she was actually what, 8, 7 or 8, like she looks to be, they would have been hiding her pre-Clone Wars, all of Clone Wars, all of that. So yeah, I think she does have growth enhancements, or they're at least able to age her when they need her to age. But it'd be interesting because I'm still in the boat where I think pretty much everything that has Dave Filoni's name on it is in contention to be in live action at some point. And so I think Omega could be a character that's set up to ultimately be that way. But how old would she be? I guess if she would be younger than Rex. But anyway, there's a lot
I
of
mean,
possibility.
I would love to see her in like Andor or something, right?
Mhm.
Just that'd be a great time. I'd love to see her maybe post Revenge of the Sith, but yeah, wait, there's a long way to go.
There is, and there's so many possibilities now with the future of the clones. And initially when we thought no clones survived, and then Rex and Gregor and Wolf show up, and now there's Rex, you know, uh, retcon to be that guy in
Yeah, it
Return of the
doesn't like
Jedi.
doesn't Kix the medic. He survives into the sequels because he finds out about Order 66 in some comic or whatever,
Mhm.
and his ship crashes before he gets to Count Dooku, and he's like frozen, or he's in carbonite or something, and then he's freed by the Crimson Corsair 30 years after Revenge of the Sith. Like clones are gonna play a force more than we thought. I think that's what Filoni definitely is trying to push.
I hope so. I really do, because yeah, it's just fascinating to have these remnants of the Republic still existing 20, 30 years after, especially when the
Right.
Empire's trying to wipe out everything that has to do with the Republic. To see these guys continue to evolve post what they're bred for, it's very interesting typical type of sci-fi trope of identity and finding out why you're around, why you exist.
Right. And it's ironic because like these guys were supposed to be bred for one purpose. If they die, they die. And then after the war ends, they're gonna die faster than anyone else. So they'll be gone before most people. But we've got guys like Rex being around in post, Return of the Jedi. We could probably see maybe Omega around post Return. Just the guys that aren't supposed to be there for so long, being all the way there in sequels or post original trilogy. I mean, that'd be great. It'd be ironic that the shortest lived characters end up being the longest
Yeah.
lasting ones.
Yeah, there's so much potential. I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm getting way ahead of myself, but I just want to see how this season wraps up, because I think that is the true determinant for how the future of the clones is within the like current Star Wars we know now. Yeah, there's room for books and stuff, but like what's their future in live action or animated Star Wars after
Mm-hmm.
Bad Batch? And if this show ends with it being okay, this is going to end up being more about the Bad Batch and their family story, then I think we can safely say that there's going to be less clone involvement in the future. But if this ends with like a bunch of other clones showing up and having brain chips removed and they're starting to form some big group against the Empire, and the clones are really one of the early stages of the rebellion and all this stuff, I think why not have clones pop up in sequel trilogy timeline and anything we do there in terms of live
Yeah.
action or animation. So thanks so much for watching this segment of the Star Wars Lads podcast. If you enjoyed this content, please like the video by clicking the thumbs up button down below and subscribe to our channel for new Star Wars content every single week. If you want to watch our full discussion, click the video on the left. Or if you want to check out one of our other awesome videos, click the video on the right.